Alright guys, this is John with the Creature Teacher, and this animal I'll show you, I've already kind of moved her enclosure around a little bit and taken care of her, but this animal in here is Selena. And Selena is a green iguana. Now Selena is one of our rescue reptiles. We actually got her from an owner who had her and did not do the best job caring for her, unfortunately, which is common with iguanas. They are pretty cheap as pets. If you go to a pet store or a reptile show, you can usually get them. Usually if they're a green iguana, if they're a color morph like a blue or a red, they're more expensive, but a green iguana is going to be, a young juvenile is going to be between $20 and $50, which is not very expensive in the world of lizards. I got a chair here, I'll sit down. Now the reason I am not opening her enclosure, she's like most iguanas, she is a little bit skittish. She has gotten a lot better with some time. She's kind of back there behind her water dish. Hey there, hey there, hey there. This is pretty typical behavior, and she's doing her little head bob and extending out her dewlap to try and be threatening. When I'm holding her, she is a little better. However, getting a hold of her can be kind of difficult because she is just skittish. Iguanas are typically like that. As with more handling and as they get older, they can be better. But one of the big problems with iguanas is they're not an easy reptile to care for. Unfortunately, their price in stores doesn't always reflect that. A lot of them are captured from, a lot of the iguanas that are sold in stores are going to be captured from the wild. And they are, when they're juveniles, they're locally common pretty much everywhere they're found. And they're actually an invasive species in several countries in Central America. And also on the island of Puerto Rico. They were introduced there, and they are a rampant pest that actually destroys a lot of crops and causes a lot of problems with agriculture. These, again, reptiles do get quite large. She will not get as big as a male. The females are smaller than males are, but I mean, a male can be 6 feet long and weigh 30 to 40 pounds, whereas the females, they will be about 4 feet long, and of course they'll weigh less because they have a smaller body size. But that's still big for a reptile, and they're extremely active. They are very energetic, and since they do live in the trees, they need a very large enclosure. She will eventually have to live outside, and she will need to, I'll have to build her an enclosure outside with like a tree or two in it and some platforms for her to be on. Because of their size, it just becomes unfeasible to keep them inside unless it's freezing cold, which it can be here in Texas. And also, not only do they need a huge space, they need a lot of food. These animals only eat vegetables. Now, some people, there's a bit of a debate, should you give them some fruit? I mean, fruit's not bad for them. I really avoid fruit, except for rare occasions. I might offer her some. It's very important for them to get leafy vegetables, things like kale, spinach, collard greens, mustard greens, turnip greens. When they're younger like she is, they can eat flowers. Not a lot of them, but they can. So a thing like a hibiscus. So if you want to build like a natural terrarium for them, you can put like some hibiscus plants in there and they'll eat those flowers. Also, they can eat, things like squash, zucchini, stuff like that. I really don't give her fruit, and if I do, it's very, very little, not a lot. Just because it can cause problems for them in captivity if they eat too much of it. Just like same thing with other reptiles like the African spurred tortoises. If they eat too much fruit, it can give them diarrhea. And then, of course, avoid animal protein of any kind. There are some people who said that they fed them crickets before or something like that, and they're okay. In general, you should just try to avoid that. They really do not eat that in the wild, and so it can give them problems. Their stomachs are not designed to digest that type of stuff, so it can cause issues. And of course, they do need a lot of water. They need a lot of humidity. They need high heat. This is a tropical species, so combined with the fact that they have a huge size and the fact that they need very high humidity and really high heat means that when they get large, if you have them in an outdoor enclosure, you're going to need a sprinkler misting system. You're going to need probably like 6 or 7 heat lamps to give them the right amount of heat. You're going to have to make sure that they get the right amount of sun. So they're unfortunately difficult reptiles in terms of just housing and care and maintenance, even though they're sold for such cheap prices, and they're when they're small when they sell them. Another problem is that iguanas are pretty temperamental reptiles. Their natural behavior is to try and smack you with that big tail. She's got that big tail right there. Her tail is probably about half the length of her body, and she can whip it real fast. If I'm holding her, and I'm holding her on my chest, sometimes she'll whip that tail around, and she'll just try to hit me in the face with it. Not because she's trying to escape. She's just trying to let me know that she's boss, and she's in charge. She's got some spicy Latin attitude, so, she lets me know. And, of course, when they get larger, that mouth is full of teeth, and even though they eat plants, they can chomp on you and it will not feel good. She's only bit me one time. That was the first time I got her, and I was trying to move her from the terrible enclosure that she was in. The previous owner had her in this tiny little cage. It was really bad. And had kept her in it for a year and a half. And so she was a pretty aggressive, not very nice reptile. She's still a little skittish. If I go to pick her up, she definitely tries to run. But I can pick her up now and hold on to her, and she kind of calms down, and she's a little better with it. It's just hard to do all that with a camera in my hand. Now, I stood up, so she's standing up. She's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Unfortunately, because she's a rescue, she is missing some body parts. When I say that, she's missing a couple toes. Just because her previous owner, unfortunately, that caused an issue. You can see she's kind of stretching her body out there. It's hard to see. I'm not opening her enclosure lid because I don't want her to run around and freak out. So she's kind of extending her body there. She's bobbing her head. She can also see my bearded dragon. So they don't like each other, and he's trying to show off and say that he's super strong and super cool. You can see his dark beard there. He's trying to say that he's in charge. He's ruined his house. I'll have to fix it up. Just stop it. You're not even the same species. Calm down. My gosh. So anyways, the biggest problem though I had with her is that I did not know this when I got her from her previous owner, is that she had mites. Now mites are a natural little arthropod that they drink the blood of other animals. They're kind of like a little flea, except they don't jump. And mites are one of the more common ectoparasites on reptiles. However, they're super common in the wild. Most reptiles are going to have them, but when you're out in the wild, reptiles will shed their skin, which the mites are then stuck on, as well as the eggs, and then they just walk away from their skin, and they're good. However, when they're in a habitat like this, where they cannot get away from that, that just accumulates more and more mites, and it causes problems. And unfortunately, it was a big deal. Now, this is not the original enclosure I had for her. I built her one out of wood, a big, large one. This is an extra one that I had. This is temporary. And so when you have mites are a huge problem. You do have to treat the reptile and the enclosure. Sometimes you just need to throw things away. I did have to throw some. She had some big log decorations that I had gotten for her. I had to throw all those away because the mites just embed themselves in those things, and it is so difficult to get them out. It's just not worth it to deal with it, to have another outbreak. So I had to buy some mite removal spray, which I sprayed on the inside of the enclosure that she was previously in to try and help kill them. And I also sprayed some on her. Now, you need to, if you have a mite problem, explicitly follow the instructions on how to deal with them, because you don't want to spray that stuff in their face, get it on their body, etc. Or not get on their body, but anywhere around their face, because you don't want it to get in their eyes and their nose or mouth. You can use it on their skin. She's peeking around. She's like, hey, yep. She's being herself, being very cautious. But so thankfully, I have not seen any mites on her previously. I treated her about 2 weeks ago. Have not seen any mites on her. And her other enclosure, show you guys what I did with it, is right out here. So this is the other enclosure, and it is in 2 trash bags wrapped up and completely sealed, so that way this will sit in the nice hot sun and bake and hopefully kill all those mice. That's pretty much what you have to do. It's an intensive process to get rid of them, but it's what you have to do is necessary to kill these guys. Anyways, hopefully we can have some videos in the future where I can bring her out so you can see her, because she is pretty and she is quite large. Anyways, let's say bye to Selena. This has been John with the Creature Teacher. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, like, subscribe, and share. And, of course, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. We'll see you guys later. Bye.